On a freezing Thursday evening, Ethan Carter, an exhausted single-dad mechanic, fixed a stranger's broken car for free, not knowing she would change his life forever. She didn't leave her name, just a quiet thank you, and eyes that lingered longer than expected. Hours later, the entire auto shop froze in silence. A black luxury car pulled in. Security stepped out first. Then, her. The same woman. But now everyone was calling her Miss Harper, the new CEO, and the owner of everything Ethan thought he understood about his life. The thermometer outside Carver & Sons Auto Repair read 23 degrees, but Ethan Carter had long stopped noticing the cold. He noticed other things. The way the fluorescent tube above Bay 3 flickered every 11 seconds he'd counted. The faint smell of burnt rubber that never quite left the concrete floor, no matter how many times he scrubbed it. The particular quiet that settled over the shop around 5:30 on a Thursday, when the last customer had gone and the day's invoices sat tallied on the pegboard by the door, never quite adding up to what they should. The sound of the heating unit cycling on, which meant the temperature outside had dropped another few degrees. The quality of his own tiredness, not the bad kind, not the defeated kind, but the good, honest weight of a day that had been used correctly. He noticed Lily. She was 6 years old and sitting cross-legged on the old army cot he'd wedged between the parts shelves and the back wall, the spot he called her office, which she accepted with tremendous seriousness. She had a worksheet spread across her knees, a pencil gripped in her small fist, and her tongue pressed between her teeth the way it always was when she was doing math. She was wearing his old Red Sox cap, brim turned sideways. It swallowed her head. "Dad," she said, without looking up. "How many is 7 plus 8? 15. Are you sure?" "Pretty sure." She wrote it down, nodded, and moved on with the gravity of someone filing a legal document. Ethan watched her for a second too long, the way he always did, like if he looked away she might disappear, or grow up, or both. He was 38 years old. He had grease under his fingernails that never fully washed out, a bad shoulder from a compression fitting that had slipped 2 winters ago, and a mortgage on the small house 4 blocks east that had seemed manageable until it hadn't. He'd been working at Carver & Sons for 11 years, longer than most of the other guys. Long enough that when old Ray Carver had his stroke last spring and the family decided to sell, Ethan had been the one everyone looked to. Not because he was the senior tech, Marcus had 3 years on him, but because Ethan was the one who stayed late without being asked, who kept the inventory honest, who remembered which regular customers had bad knees and needed the car pulled to the curb for them. He stayed because of Lily, and he stayed despite her too. It was easier, some days, to think about engines. Engines made sense. They followed rules. He was torquing a wheel bearing on a 17 Chevy Silverado when headlights swept across the bay doors. Not unusual, people pulled in after hours sometimes, saw the light still on, tried their luck. He heard the car before he saw it. Not the engine had stopped. What he heard was the soft, expensive clunk of a door that costs more than his truck. And then the sound of heels on the frozen asphalt, too hurried to be casual, too measured to be panicked. He slid out from under the Silverado and stood up. She was standing just inside the bay door, one hand still holding her phone, dressed in a charcoal wool coat that was too thin for this weather. Late 30s, he guessed. Dark hair pulled back simply. She wasn't wearing anything that announced itself, no conspicuous jewelry, no logo he recognized, but there was something in the way she stood that he couldn't quite name, like she was used to walking into rooms and having them adjust to her, but was presently trying not to be. "I'm sorry," she said. "I saw the light. My car just died about half a block up. I pushed it in." She paused. I tried to push it in. A man walking his dog actually helped me steer. Ethan looked past her. A dark blue sedan sat at a slight angle just outside the door, a Mercedes E-Class, maybe 3 years old. Even in the dim light he could see it was well maintained, not a neglect issue. "What did it do?" he asked. "It just stopped. I was at the light on Beaumont, and it made a sound like a cough, and then nothing. Battery light come on before that? She thought. Yes, a few days ago. Ethan pulled on his jacket and walked out to the car. He popped the hood with the release inside, grabbed his flashlight, and leaned in. The alternator belt had snapped. Clean brake probably been fraying for a week or more. The battery had been running on its reserve until it hadn't. He went back in. Alternator belt. I've got the part in stock. It's a common size. 45 minutes, maybe less. She looked at him steadily. How much? Parts are $11. Labor. He paused. He looked at her face, which was controlled but tired in a way that had nothing to do with the cold. Don't worry about the labor tonight. She blinked. I'm sorry? It's late. The part's practically free, and the job's straightforward. I'll write it up as a favor. There was a silence. She seemed to be processing this as if he'd said something in a language she'd once studied, but hadn't spoken in years. I can pay you, she said. I don't need charity. I know, Ethan said. Neither do I. I'm just saying, sometimes people need a hand more than they need a transaction. He shrugged. Drive safe on the way home. It's getting colder. He turned and walked back to the parts shelves. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then, okay. Her name, he would not know for some time, was Olivia Harper. She had spent the last 14 years turning failing things into successful ones. She had restructured a logistics company in her late 20s that everyone told her was too far gone. She had taken a regional manufacturing firm from negative EBITDA to acquisition ready in 4 years. She was, depending on who you asked, visionary, ruthless, precise, or all three. She had been on the covers of 2 business publications, appeared on 3 panels, declined 6 speaking invitations this calendar year alone because she found panels exhausting and the Q&As performative. She employed 340 people across 2 countries. She had a standing 7 a.m. call on Mondays that she never canceled, and a personal rule against checking email after 9 p.m. that she broke approximately 4 nights out of 7. She had not, in recent memory, been treated like just a person. She stood inside Bay, one of Carver & Sons Auto Repair, and watched Ethan Carter work, and found that she could not think of a single reason to leave. She told herself she was waiting for the car. She sat on a metal stool he'd wordlessly dragged over and set her phone face down on her knee, which she never did. She was all